Hello, in this tutorial series we are going to go over how to render this out and bring it into After Effects. So I have this scene with a bunch of different materials, different situations. There's environment fog in here. There's things with sheen on it and clear coat and subsurface and transmission and a chrome ball, and then I have the background look into the actual background. So some things that I need to do before I start. So right now I have it as 5 minutes and 17 seconds for my render, and this is after I've denoised it. So I went through the render settings and have done the whole render process of like figuring out my samples and all that kind of thing. So I'm going to minimize that. I'm going to go to my environment, and this is my environment light, and I want to make it so that my render doesn't look into my HDRI. You kind of want to have a background image for that. So let's go down here, and I'm going to make that not visible to camera by dragging this to 0. And if I look at the eye, so that's now disappearing. That's good. And now I need to make sure, so the next thing I would make sure is that all your objects are smooth, because by hitting 3, display smooth. So if you don't do that, they'll be rendered with low poly, or not subdivided, and it won't look as nice. So I'll do that. And then the next thing is to figure out how long this thing will actually take. So right now this is 5 minutes and 17 seconds, so let's do that. And this is 24 frames. So 5 minutes, 1.17 times 24 equals 124 minutes. So just be aware that even with one frame only taking 5 minutes, that's taking 124 minutes. So just be aware, if your stuff is going up to 10 minutes or anything like that, you're gonna have to render for a long time. Okay, so that's good. So now let's go to the render settings and go to common, and what you'll need to do is set this to half precision. This will make your renders 16-bit instead of 32-bit, and that will make it so that you have a lot of range in your colors and values, and that way you won't get banding if you have to do some color correction. That's pretty common if you don't do that, so make sure that you have a half precision, or you can turn that off and just make sure that it's on EXR. So EXR is what we want, and half precision just makes it so that's a little bit less than 32-bit. And then I keep tiled on, and then merge AOVs will merge all your AOVs. And we are going to do a test sequence, so just 2 frames, so 1 to 2. It's always a good idea to do test sequence, and I don't need it to be, I guess, try to have it to be probably HD 720, and that's probably fine. And then let's go to AOVs. So usually you would only want to render out exactly the specific AOVs that you'll need, because this will add render time to make these. But while you're learning and for this demonstration, I'm going to be using a lot more of these just so you can see them. And if you're learning, it's might be a good idea just to render out a couple frames and just see how they're used. So I have my normal pass, and then I have 3 specific light passes, and then I have a Z depth pass and a coat, crypto, all the crypto ones. I have the diffuse indirect and direct, motion vector, which deals with motion blur, sheen, specular direct, specular indirect, and subsurface scattering. So these subsurface SSS direct and SSS indirect, you add these 2 up, they make this one. So I probably don't need that one. I can just hit that arrow because I can make that with these 2. And then I have a transmission. Okay. So now, so this animation or this sequence has some motion to it. So for that to work, you have to first set up your motion blur. So let's go over here, go to motion blur, and make sure this is enabled. So I am showing you what that looks like. So you'll see it when I pass these spheres in the air. See, it's a little bit stretched and blurred in one direction. So I'll hit stop. You can play with these settings to exactly what you want, but we don't want to render this out. We want to do this as a post-process effect. We're going to create an AOV that like makes a pass, and that's called the motion vector. This one. That's why we use this motion vector, is it bakes in the information from the motion blur, but we don't want to render it because that just takes too long. And we have more control in post in After Effects. So keep that on, but then go over to diagnostics, and then here say ignore motion, and that will make it so that it creates this AOV, but it won't actually render it out. So if I hit play now, see, I got rid of that blurring, the motion blur. Okay. And I think that's good for this video. I'll see you in the next.